Hello everyone, Bricks Ahoy here with the Winter Village Collection Set 10275 Elf Clubhouse for ages 18+. Although technically it's in the Creator Expert line, you wouldn't know it from looking at the box because of the 18+ box art design. The Winter Village sub-theme of Creator Expert started in 2009, and we've gotten one every year since. This year's set was designed by Chris McVeigh, a new hire to LEGO but a longtime adult fan of LEGO. Anyone who didn't like the concept of last year's gingerbread house should be happy with this year's return to form. Let's first take a look at the clubhouse itself. This is a Tudor-style building, which I had to Google because I don't know much about architecture. Note the steep roofs, tall gables, and this wooden ornamentation on the dormers. First, let's look off to the left-hand side of the building. There's some snowshoes attached to the wall, and there are some tiles up there to give some texture to the building. There is a pole built with a sign for the North Pole and the workshop. These are stickers on tiles, and the pole itself is a bit of a candy cane color build. This is clipped into place, so you can move this side to side if you want. There are windows back here. None of the windows in this set have glass panes, so I feel like it'd be pretty cold in here. The snow builds here with tiles and these sort of teeth pieces do a really good job of looking like snow on the windowsill. There's a walkway here made up of tiles. This door is entirely brick built. You can see there's a clip piece here. This is a flag piece. There's some new-ish macaroni tiles, and this hinges open just fine. Because of the pieces used, there are these inverted tiles on the back. It looks a little strange from the inside, but I don't really know what they could have done differently with the parts they had. There's a lantern, a light here next to the door there. These prefabricated trees still exist, and there's one in this set here. And then over to this side, you can see there's a bit of a spot here where you could potentially put the sleigh that comes in the set. You can see, even with the elf on there, that's pretty good. And I think the reindeer might be able to fit in there if you put him in this way on his own. Only so far because the antlers get in the way. One small gripe is that this wall here is not supported by anything. So if you put a little bit too much downward pressure here, there's nothing stopping this from breaking off. You do have to put a fair bit of downward force there for that to happen. Not a big deal, but there's nothing to reinforce this because the chimney in behind swims out of the way, so they couldn't attach it to that. Moving up, we can see that there's a window here, and there's a windowsill with some snow on top. I quite like that. It looks pretty good. Again, no window pane here, but that's actually a good thing. On the opposite side, I'll show you why. String of lights. Although I can't picture lights this big in real life, they look good on display here. This doesn't look out of place. When they have you build these fairy lights, they have you build both of the strings at the same time, and they want you to attach all the clips and lights on before you attach it to the roof. And the way the lights hung down after following those instructions was a little strange. It is a little bit more difficult and a little bit more frustrating, and you gotta be careful of where you put pressure on this roof, because you don't want to break anything off, but I think the final result will look a lot more pleasing to the eye if you clip these on after attaching the ropes. And on the front here, we have a wreath build. I have a bit of a love-hate relationship with it. I think it looks fantastic, but it was surprisingly difficult to get all the pieces aligned properly. It took me about 5 minutes. You kind of want to squish certain pieces to get everything to align properly, but in doing so, other pieces will be, shoved out of alignment. And getting this to make a nice wreath shape took a lot of finessing, and it took me a while, but I think it's totally worth it. This is probably my favorite style of Lego wreath that I've seen so far. There's another window up front and center here, and there is this, which is just for decoration. It doesn't actually support the roof or how the roof comes together. I think this all looks fantastic. The shaping is great. Now spinning it around to this side, there are some slight gaps in the snow between the two roofs, and I know some fans had an issue with it, but I think it looks fine. Snow doesn't always build up perfectly, and having a bit of a gap there doesn't bother me at all. Over here there's a balcony. We can put a figure up here to use a telescope. Now, there is no door here, so the only way to get to the telescope is to go through the window, which is kind of fun, honestly. I think it's cute. This whole structure here is only held into place by these hinges. So not only is it really not quite level to the ground, I feel like it's a few degrees tilted this way. Not a big deal. But if you try to mess with the telescope, you end up sort of moving the floor, and I ended up breaking the telescope off, which can happen. So adjusting this telescope, you do kind of have to hold it in place, otherwise the whole roof just kind of comes with it. Now let's take a look inside. Up on the second floor, you can see the button that triggers the light brick. I feel like the light brick is a bit of a gimmick. It's something that's been in a lot of Winter Village sets, and it's integrated well here. I like this build here. It's festive and it hides the top of the light brick, but I feel like the light brick just doesn't illuminate enough. From the front, the light really doesn't catch anything. You can't really see anything. From the back, it does illuminate the upstairs floor pretty well, but it's very dim. It's cool that it's there, but it doesn't really do all that much. Below that light brick, you can see a calendar there that has December 24th circled, and that is a sticker. Below that calendar are the bunk beds where the elves can sleep, and there's a play feature here. Just let me get some elves up there. There's a clock here, which is actually a printed element, and if you rock this back and forth, the elves will be launched out of bed like this. It's an incredibly rude awakening, but they don't seem to care. They still got smiles on their faces. While normally I wouldn't complain about getting prints, the way this mechanism works, the clock always ends up being a little crooked. Unless you're in the middle of launching the figures out of bed, the clock is going to be either crooked in one direction or crooked in the other direction. And I think it would have been nice to have a sticker so I could have corrected that orientation. But I suppose a crooked clock adds character, and it's not a very big deal. To the left of the bed is a dresser with a present and a teacup there. And on the right hand side, we have a seat and a nightstand with a nice lamp there. Outside of a bit of tile work, there isn't really much more to be seen on this floor, so let's look down to the main floor. On the left-hand side, there's a picture frame up here, which is a sticker featuring all the elves included in the set next to Santa. There's a dining table here with some waffles on plates and mugs there, with only 2 chairs, so I suppose all 4 elves have to take turns eating. In the middle is the backside of that front door there, which does look a little strange, but again, I don't know what they could have done differently there. Above, you can see the bottom of the turning mechanism there. There's a bit of a light there. You can use your imagination to decide what you want that green light to represent. Over here we have a teacup and a mug, and in behind that is a bottle of syrup. As we learned from the movie Elf, there are 4 main food groups for elves: candy, candy canes, candy corns, and syrup. The designer did mention watching classic movies to get inspiration for the set, so it seems likely that the syrup is a direct reference to that film. And then there is a bit of a pillar in the way here, so it's a little bit hard to see. But there is a present there. And over here we have a wrapping paper section, so there's a pair of scissors. And these 2 pieces, the red and the white here, are actually classic Lego car doors. The handles are just in behind here, so you can't actually tell. It's a really ingenious build. I think they did a great job there. And I think that's a very smart inclusion, having a wrapping paper section to the elf clubhouse here. One small detail that needs to be appreciated is the fact that there are jumpers here and there, so you can actually pose figures inside very easily. And the figures aren't going to come loose and fall out when you move the set around. So it's great that they included just a few studs so you can position figures in there. And here is the chimney. As we pan down, you can see there's a stocking here hanging, which is cute. And rather than having a fireplace, which is what we usually would end up getting at the bottom of a chimney, we have this fantastic waffle dispenser mechanism. This is the best play feature of the set by far. Let's take a good look at how this functions. You can load in waffles from the top here. You just drop them in the slot. There we go. And then this handle, all you have to do is lift this up, and a waffle comes down and lands right on the pan. Then this easily flips forward, and you can retrieve your waffle and dispense another. And I have absolutely no complaints about this mechanism. It works perfectly every single time. I haven't had any issues with it. Essentially, the handle is just attached by a single stud here, and just by the spacing of the round tiles inside. When you move this, waffles just happen to fall right where they need to, and everything just works perfectly. There's no Technic parts, there's no gears. It's a purely Lego system build, and it works amazingly well. This front window not only acts as a window so you can see inside, but it's keeping pressure on the whole system, and it's keeping the waffles in place, and it's part of how this mechanism works is that windscreen piece there. Super ingenious, works incredibly well. I couldn't have asked for more in a play feature. The only very, very slight drawback of this mechanism is the fact that the handle is visible from the outside at most times, but that's really kind of a non-issue to me. And this chimney is attached by a hinge, so you can fold this in or out if you'd like. The first sub-build I want to look at is Brixton here. This is not brand new. We have seen this mold once before in the Lego Harry Potter line, and it was the Stag Patronus, and it was in transparent light blue. This is our first time getting this mold in a natural color, which I appreciate. The antlers are flexible rubber, so you don't have to worry about breaking those off if you put the set into storage until next year. But I do wish that it came with a brick and a tile to fill in this gap here if you wanted to remove him from the sleigh. If you remove him, there's just a big hole in his back, and that's not so great. This sleigh is rocket powered, which again I think might be another reference to the movie Elf, because this is a reindeer pulled sleigh, although it's not Santa's sleigh and doesn't have room for presents. You think it wouldn't really need rocket power if it has reindeer on the front. Taking a good look at this, you can see all the brackets used. You are building in so many different directions. I think this easily takes the cake for the most bracket pieces used effectively in a very small build like this. But you change building directions so many times in this. It has room for just one elf that fits perfectly in there. This musical keyboard build couldn't be much simpler. It is a printed tile, which I believe first appeared in a LEGO Movie 2 set, and that is attached to some brackets, and there's just a tile on the back here and some pieces with Technic holes on the bottom. 4 or 5 pieces makes a perfect playable keyboard there that stands on its own. No complaints about this, it's a really solid build. Next up, let's look at this old-fashioned computer build. I love this. I don't know if it's an IBM, intended to be an IBM clone or what. I don't know enough about older computers. But you can tell that this is a DOS-era computer just based on the sticker here on the front. I think it's interesting that they decided to go with white instead of, tan color, because a lot of these older computers were beige. I think the designer probably would have made this in tan if he could have, but I suspect that one of these pieces, maybe this bracket piece or something, wasn't available in the color tan, so it was just cheaper to keep it white, and white works perfectly well. The keyboard is not printed, it's just an ingot piece there. All of this, it just comes together on a very small table, but it's perfectly scaled for the size of a minifigure with the short legs here so the elves can use the computer. That sticker says nice list. Another small complaint is that these stickers were miscut ever so slightly. So while applying the sticker, I was trying to get the print centered and not actually the edges of the sticker centered on the brick, if that makes any sense. If I had centered the sticker, the print would have been misaligned. It was only miscut by a very slight amount, so it really was not a huge deal. It has been much worse in the past. I don't know what's happening and why the quality seems to be slipping on stickers, because I don't remember this being a problem in the past, but it's becoming more and more of a thing where stickers are miscut. With these holiday sets, the designers have the option to include a miniature build of an actual LEGO set that you could purchase right now, or maybe a popular LEGO set from history. And as far as I know, LEGO has not produced a black pirate ship with gold accents, and there certainly isn't one on the market right now. And this airplane, I don't believe there's any LEGO set on the market right now that looks like this. So I do wish that one of these two builds could have been a reference to a currently existing LEGO set, whether it be a classic space type spaceship with the yellow canopy or something like that. I think that is the only slight miss. There's nothing wrong with these builds themselves, I just wish they could have included something that looked like an actual LEGO set at this scale. Here is a small pirate ship side build. I think this actually looks fantastic. There's lots of pearl gold pieces here used, and there's black and reddish brown. The sails are made of flag pieces. Looks beautiful, and it completely does its job. This is an airplane. There's 2 bracket pieces here in gray, as you can see, to change the orientation of where the studs are on top. Jumper on the bottom here, cheese wedge, whoop. This piece here is used for wheels, which I think works really well. The propeller at the front has a fair bit of friction, so you can't really spin it fast, but it looks great. There are 2 small presents included in this set. There's nothing much to say about these, very straightforward bricks on top of bricks with studs on top to represent bows. I do kind of like the flower pieces used instead. I think those make slightly better looking bows, but there's really nothing you can fault here. Very straightforward builds here. And here's the Christmas tree build for this year. Similarly to last year, all 4 sides are a very similar sub-assembly, and they have you build the front and the back at the same time, and either side at the same time. And they put it on opposite sides so it doesn't look as repetitive as it actually is. I'm not a huge fan of the color tan being used here. I believe these are supposed to be ornaments and not lights, but the tan color just looks a little out of place. I think any other saturated color would have worked. Blue, purple, something else. The designer, as far as I know, was directly referencing his own life and the elaborate Christmas trees and decorations from his mother, so the tan may have made more sense to him. Overall, I think it's a very minor nitpick, but I don't think tan maybe was the most festive color they could have went with. This is built on a white dish, and up at the top of the tree is a star, which was a piece introduced for the LEGO Movie 2. Inside the star is another one of those inverted, sloped, circular tile. What are these called? It's transparent, and it actually slots right in there. So you won't be able to dig that out with your fingers. You'll have to actually poke something through that hole if you want to remove this piece from the star. There are 4 minifigures included with the set, all of them elves. All 4 elves come with the same brand new tunic design. There is some gold printing on there and the bells. This guy here has glasses and a nice smile. No alternate face on this guy. This figure here has a megaphone and a bit of an uneasy face on the front. This character does have a secondary face, and on the back there's a smile. This elf comes with a red scarf and has a cute smile on the front. On the back, there's nothing there. And this final figure here, this elf, has a big grin on the front, and on the back, a big grin there with closed eyes. This set comes with 2 instruction manuals, one for all of the side builds and one for the main clubhouse. So if you have multiple builders and you want to build this with somebody else, you can give one booklet to one person and one to the other, and you can both build at the same time, which is fantastic. Here's a quick look at the box. One thing that's missing on the front is that keyboard piano I showed you. I don't know why it's not here. I don't know if that was an oversight or maybe it just didn't look good in the composition here. It seems strange to omit it when all the other presents are here. But yeah, that musical keyboard is nowhere to be found, but everything else is here. You can see an elf feeding a waffle to the reindeer. I would not recommend feeding reindeers waffles in real life if you get the opportunity. I can't imagine that would be great for a reindeer's diet. Like I said before, there is no creator expert branding on the box, but the box does say 18+. I do not care for the 18+ branding of sets. All of the 18+ sets use similar box design with, black background, and I think it looks great here, but I think maybe the 18+ itself is something they could change up next year, maybe use some sort of for adult builders type branding, rather than putting the age range up that high. On the back of the box you can see a lot of stuff. It shows you how all the play features work, and there's the dimensions there, 22 centimeters wide, 8.5 inches wide, or 22 centimeters, 8.5 inches tall. So there you go, a full review of this year's Winter Village set. I love this thing. I can't wait to put it on display now that I'm done reviewing it. I think it's a great looking set and a fantastic addition to the Winter Village series by Chris McVeigh. There are lots of interesting building techniques, whether it's the brackets or the way the roofs are attached. The only real frustration I had building this set was with my own perfectionism of getting things aligned perfectly. I really do wish that reindeer came with a brick to fill in that gap on his back, and I think it was a missed opportunity for one of those 2 small builds to not be a reference to a currently available LEGO set. The light brick itself still feels like a gimmick to me, but it doesn't really detract anything. I just don't think it really adds all that much either. So, those are my only critiques. Overall, I think this thing is fantastic. I'd highly recommend picking it up. The price is $100 USD or 140 Canadian dollars. That's rounding up a penny to the nearest dollar. The set is about 8.4 cents per piece. That's USD, which is a pretty good value. And I really don't have much else to say. I think this thing looks beautiful. I would highly recommend picking it up. Thank you for watching and have a great day.